some people think it's a banana, but who knows, right?
I don't think it
Okay,
has
so
a lot to do with fruit. I think it has to do with something else. But I don't know.
oh yeah, I mean it's all like a pretend story. You just fill in the blank, and then you fill it in with whatever you want, and that's how people buy into the spelling, which we do every single day when we even just speak, and it's just freaking glorious. I love it when people try. Like, come
You're
on,
enjoying
like
it?
I enjoy it because you know what? It's an energy game.
Mm-hmm.
It is an energy game. And I think the more that people learn about this, the more that they can stop, shit flinging one another. Wait, are you recording on your side, by the way?
I started a couple minutes ago.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I can't do it on on my iPad, so unfortunately, if I wanted to do it on my laptop, but it won't work.
What was the problem?
The microphone, for some reason, I don't know if it's just because it's bad manufacturing. It's just a really shitty microphone on my laptop. So if I try to do any like video chatting, people can see me, but they can't hear me.
Mm.
So I'm just like, okay, well, that's $1,000 gone. No, it's an older laptop, so it's time for it to be replaced.
Well,
Battery.
Lavette did talk about Mercury Retrograde and how technology and communication is going to break down.
Yesterday, I mean, come on, Facebook, Instagram, no one
Right?
really post anything.
Uh-huh.
I was, well, just get ready because this is just the beginning of so much that's going to be coming in. Energetically speaking, 2020, 2021 is going to be, we're going to see, I believe, well, yes, there's going to be a so-called election, but we already know what that is. But
You think Trump is going to get
it's going to
reelected?
be a complete changing of what we thought was a structure that supported, I guess you'd say, everything, but really it has never really supported anybody except a few elite. I mean, there's this whole scandal now, which I'm surprised they're really starting to talk about it, where these celebrities are paying admissions officers large sums of money so their kid could get into a nice school.
I had it. Remember the douchebag I was telling you about yesterday? That's what else he was talking about. There was this guy I had a passenger.
Oh, yes.
He was a big douche, but some rich guy. But he was sitting here talking about that to his
Yeah.
friend. That was half of the conversation. The other half was him complaining about how his kids didn't appreciate all the money that he threw at them.
Well, it's either because the kids are idiots or he's the idiot. But
Yeah.
I always say, just follow the genetic trail, and it shouldn't be that hard to understand. Yeah, that sounds really screwed up to say, but when I think about it, money can't buy intelligence. It really can't. Either you're just an idiot, or you got brains, or you're an NPC. More likely that. Which I think that's about 80% or 90% of people here, sadly to say. But
Yeah, it's pretty high. But I don't think that I don't think it's impossible for the so-called NPCs to think differently. It's just that the program has to tell them they can think differently, then they'll think differently.
Yeah.
As long as the program is saying no, then they're not going to do it.
Correct. It's like they can't do it autonomously for
Right.
themselves. This is the issue. Most people have to be told what to think. They can't spontaneously come up with it, because if they did, then it's like you're questioning authority. Therefore, you are being you're not compliant.
Mm-hmm.
You hear this all the time in the workforce. You hear it like, as soon as you do something that's against the rule book, you're in compliance. It's like we're like robots in a freaking manufacturing line. Oh, well, actually, this is a real thing. So I'm not trying to get at something that's not real, but I mean, just think about how we get our smartphones, right? It's done through the whole manufacturing assembly line process. It's
Right.
really sad.
Right.
That's reality that we live in, because we have technology that could make things so much easier for us.
The problem is taking that particular procedural method, right? And then
Yeah.
saying this is how every human must behave in their day-to-day lives as well, outside of just producing an iPhone on the assembly line, because it's good for the iPhone. It works. Like, that's probably the most efficient way to do it. You know?
Well, there's a cost and benefit to it, but there's always a leverage and power. It's a power dynamic thing. So sure, for us, oh yeah, it's so convenient. We get to enjoy. But then on the other end, those who are actually making the product for us, sad to say, they're the ones who are paying the biggest costs, their own life. So this is what I find quite interesting is here. I guess it's a form of mental enslavement, right?
Mm.
We have the added luxury of technological prowess, but then in many ways, most people can't think for themselves.
Yeah.
They're part of the collective hive, and most people really just want to talk about Kim Kardashian's Instagram pictures or the other sister. I can't think of her name, but
Chloe. I feel bad that I know that.
They're all, or this whole scandal where they're like, oh, what's her name, Jordan Woods? Yeah, like she slept with so and so, and I'm like, oh come on, it's
I
not
don't
like
know who Jordan Woods is. I don't follow it aside from when it spills out on Facebook when people are outraged enough that they feel the need to display on Facebook. I don't see it.
It's weird because a lot of my friends, I mean, I hate to say it, I'm a millennial. Okay, slap me.
How old are you? Wait, how old are you?
I'm only 23 years young.
You're 23.
23 years young. And to be real honest, I don't really buy into what most of my friends buy into. I mean, I'm not going to just defriend someone because they like stuff like that, or they follow the trends, or they try to be like a wannabe hipster. Which,
do you consider yourself a millennial?
I was born 95, so I guess I'm like at the tail end of it, but then I'm also at the beginning of like Gen Z. It's really weird just how the scale works, because I think it's supposed to be between 1980 to about 1995, and I was born in the middle of 95, so
you're at the
I'm on the cusp.
You're on the cusp.
Yeah.
That means that you get the best of both worlds. Then you can be a millennial and you can also be like a Instagram pack rat, whatever they.
Instagram whore.
Instagram whore, Insta whore. You can be a thought.
I can be what?
I don't even know. I don't know what the kids are up to. Like, they don't even appear. I hardly ever see children in San Francisco. They hide them, or they just don't have kids in San. They have dogs.
Well,
that's all.
Why San Francisco? No offense, but it's like I don't think you live in San Francisco because trust and believe San Francisco isn't what it used to be.
We're in Vallejo.
One reason is because it's not safe. I mean, if you look at how it's just been, it used to be one of the most beautiful cities in the whole West Coast. Now it's kind of like a dumping ground for like all this political crap. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it's kind of the truth. If you think about California in total, San Francisco being one of the major tech hubs of this state, it's also one of the major trading ports. Get that, right?
Mm-hmm. Oakland has all those huge cranes.
Yeah.
There's massive boats with tons of shipping containers.
Shipping containers, like those giant, where you could potentially live out of those. Like if you need a viable housing solution, that might just save you from an EMP, and your electronics might still work. Just letting you know. I saw it on a show, and it said it's called Doomsday Preppers. This was like 7 years ago, back when we really thought we were gonna all die because of December 21st. But really, December 21st was all about the ending of time as we know it, meaning time would no longer exist in the equation because it's just a benchmark measure, and that we would be stepping into, a higher density. Or I shouldn't say, when I say higher density, I mean less physically dense, but more in the form of a light body, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Maybe as far as time changing in 2012, maybe it's more referring to that more people can see that it's simply a construct and not an actual
Absolutely.
thing.
Yeah.
Because like even with how there's something also about the structure of the universe as it is now compared to then, and it could just be a mental thing, but it seems less physical now. It seems very much more mental, and it's like you're thinking it out as you're
That's
seeing
why
it.
I
You know?
wanted to talk to you, man.
Yeah.
You have a mind that is totally built off of this concept. That's why I wanted to interview you, because I'm also doing a YouTube series. My series is called Noggin Nourishment, because I feel like people need some real, true education as to how does the mind really work. Because I think a lot of us have been so mind screwed through our education system, political systems, our media, and this is how they know how to mind map people,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how advertisers are able to sell millions of dollars. Think of that makeup kit that one of the Kardashian sisters sells. She got like a Forbes cover where it was saying that she's like the first, she's like one of the youngest self-made billionaires,
She's a
or female.
billionaire.
Yeah. But I'm like, well, the only way that could have really happened is because of social media. If social media didn't exist, boom, it would take them a while for them to get to that level. So what took a couple of years might have taken maybe a decade or so. And I think a lot of it has to do with this interface with technology, because the more that we interface with such like, like aluminum or metallic cylinder blocks, this is what I think of them. They're just cylinder blocks. The more we kind of give away our mental power. You notice how some people, like, that the store is just right ahead of you, but they have to use their GPS on their phone because they are like, for some reason, I'm not going to remember. That right there is a telltale sign that they have in some ways they have become programmed into the program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's everybody's dependent on it. Just yeah, there used to be paper maps, and people used to have to remember phone numbers. Back in the day.
And I'm not that
Even
old, but
think about this one. Even you're not that old. Even actual friends, right? Like some of our Facebook friends are actual friends, right? A lot of them are.
true.
But the
Good.
whole social media thing made it so we don't even have to remember names of people. Like the thing is holding that memory for us.
Oh, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. I mean, because if you think about it, it's based off of facial recognition. That's how their system works. And obviously, that's where Apple's going with their technology as well, because what's the big thing? Face ID.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer Touch ID, but um, the whole thing about facial pattern recognition, it's like you don't even have a name, you don't even have an identity anymore. You're just this projection, and that's what they see you as. And in a way, that's kind of, I guess you could say it's something you have to worry about, because that that in itself is part of data mining, and data mining is something I find is quite dangerous, because there are many of us who come in here and we really know what's happening, and unfortunately many people do get targeted because of their I, their mental abilities. Some people are telepathic, some people are like myself, I'm very empathic, so I can sense out energetics from very far away.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I probably need to think about moving out of California. Crazy, this state, and the energy here is like insane,
Yeah,
especially if you go to LA.
it's
Oh,
pretty heavy, even in especially in San
dense.
Francisco. Like, And you don't realize it necessarily until you go take a walk in the woods and you're like, whoa, like I feel light for some reason. You don't even realize that you're just being weighed down by this collective just shit pile.
But how we live on the everyday. I mean, if you think about city buildings, they're very, very monotonous, right? I don't think
Right.
that's the right word, but
They're
it's kind
angular. It's angular. It's the same
they're
thing.
all angular cubes, and
Right.
cubes have energy, right? Uh, it's kind of funny because I always wondered, in Pokemon they have the Pokeball and it captures the Pokemon. Shouldn't it be a
Mhm.
cube? Maybe it's a cube inside that holds it. I don't know. That's just my thought system. But if you think about sacred geometry for a second, if you look at a cube, cubes are a very dense form of energetics in the sense that it's meant to contain something. What do boxes look like? They're cubes. What
Mhm.
do homes look like? Cubes. Containers for shipping. Cubes. That Amazon package you just got from God knows where. It's usually the shape of a cube. It might be a little bit more rectangular, but it's got the six-sided figure.
Right.
So if you think about it, most people. Oh yeah, and then most people work in what? A cubicle.
Mhm.
Isn't it weird how this seemingly instantaneous type of system is actually the system that most people can't even get themselves out of? They can't even get out of the box because they're trapped in a box.
Literally and figuratively
They're
and
trapped in a
mentally.
box. Cars do the same thing as well, although they're a little bit more aerodynamic because of um, certain reasons. I can't explain it exactly because I'm not a car expert, but
Well, they have more curves. They're
they're
flowing more. You do have the box vehicles though, like the
still
tractor
box.
trailers, the moving trucks and all that. There are just rolling boxes as well.
The Kia Soul.
Yeah.
The soul.
Kia Soul is a box.
Um, but
Pandora's box. Oh my goodness. Okay, I mean it could go on for a long time, but if you get what I'm saying, that literally is what is putting people at such high anxiety because nobody. It's like if you think about it, when we were kids growing up, comparing kids to today to kids even like 15 years ago when I was a kid, we were not allowed to come home until it was close to dark. Now it's like the opposite. A lot of kids are just always home, and a lot of them usually are playing video games. If not, they're on their smartphones. I mean, we didn't even have smartphones. We had really clunky flip phones that really.
yeah, I had one of those too. The clamshell. Yeah.
And I look at these. I feel bad for those little kids that have their parents give them a tablet. When you go to a restaurant, you probably see this. You see that family that has that child and they're on their tablet, and they're just like they have no attention span. They're not even the kid doesn't even want to explore. And usually, when a kid's around the toddler age, they just want to explore everything. They want to see everything.
Mm-hmm.
They probably want to get their hands on things they shouldn't get their hands on things. And if you were like me at 2 years old, you probably stuck a key into an electrical outlet and thought it was really funny. But my family thought, oh my god, I'm surprised you didn't die. I'm like, I'm surprised I didn't die either.
You were enjoying the. That's what Laura used to do. She told me she would stick her
My
fingers in.
sister! Oh
The,
my god.
she liked it. Like it was.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love
Because we are
yeah.
we are we are electromagnetic beings, and that's another part. If you think of the inner body energetics, that's another part that has been suppressed as well. Because I know for me in particular, even those tingly feelings or the rush or the wave feelings that can go through your body, those for the most part are not as much. They get you have to you have to work to keep that thing going because the way the society is, it's going to try to deaden everything.
Well, we have a dead system of food. If you think about it, let's be real here. Our food does not have the same nutrient density that it once had, maybe back in I would say the 50s or 60s. GMOs started coming out in 96, and I was only like 1 year old. So I was prone to be eating GMO food for the rest of my life, right? And then if you think about it, how some of the foods are labeled, you don't even know if it's truly organic or not. That's the sad thing, is they're even deceiving you on that end. Also, there's no school that teaches you about how to master your energy, how to clear out your aura, which I probably should start teaching that because no one else has been teaching it properly. How to master your emotions. Goodness, how many of these teenagers that you see literally can't even handle themselves because they're so overworked in these school systems. They sit down for like, what, 7 hours a day at a desk listening to a teacher who they really could care like less about, looking at a whiteboard and just staring at words. I mean, think about that. And that's also the college system. Sadly to say, I have fallen asleep in a class. Well, because the teacher was so boring. And people normal. They think it's really normal. And I'm just like, we really are gonna go into a death spiral here of like extinction if we allow this to continue in a way, because in many cases that's kind of where we're going. But then I think, no, not everyone's like that. Some people are a little bit more awake. Give them time. I know the mission here is really difficult. I really didn't want to come here.
Do you have memories of before incarnating?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not as many as Lauda, but I definitely have quite a few memories. I can say I've been here quite a bit. I have memories of Lemuria and Atlantis before they fell. And back then, wow, that's a real society, right? In many of my past lives, I've been like an ancient, I guess you could say a monk, somebody who lived a more monastic lifestyle. But in this lifetime, it's more like, oh, you're going to have to learn about the American way of living. And that's probably why I incarnated in America. But my genetic heritage is kind of spread out all over the world. So I kind of have a little bit of everything here. Which is nice because then I can pull from so many different places.
You were born in California?
I was born in California, San Diego.
You're in
I live in San Diego. I have to say, San Diego, out of the major cities in California, seems a lot less crazy.
It's very nice. It is very nice.
But I'm not saying that I live in like the nicest area of San Diego, but I always like to say it's not always that nice when you have tourists coming by your front doorstep all the time. If you live in La Jolla,
are you in a school system, or what do you do?
I am no longer going to participate in that sausage festering, man, because it's insane. But no, right now I'm just working, and then I'm probably going to be doing more YouTube videos. I feel that YouTube is like a really strong platform. Many people, I feel, need more information. They need to understand. Sorry, I'm actually looking at my whiteboard because I wrote down ideas.
Sure.
They need to understand empathic ability. They need to understand how to communicate and understand their emotions. And please don't hold in your emotions. That is so bad for you mentally. I know too many people who have gone down the pike where they literally lost themselves emotionally, and it was not good. You know, they ended up going to like a mental ward because it this is the thing. Manifestation is thought plus your emotion, your energetic motion. Okay. And then couple that with the action you're taking. We're creators, people. This is the thing. Most people don't want to believe that they're kind of responsible for some of the stuff that they create. But like when you really look at it, hell yes, they are. I mean, come on. If you're holding on to like emotional stuff and then expecting yourself to be all okay every single day, you've got serious issues, man. Because energy has to go somewhere.
Well,
And if you
you're creating via the suppression, because then
suppression,
the people around you get that you're upset, even though you may be pretending you're not, and that's affecting them. So that's like a reverse sort of manifestation.
they empathically know that, because you might say, "Oh yeah, everything's totally fine." But everyone around you is like, "Oh, get away from that person." You know, I don't look at so and so. They don't seem like they're all fine.
Right.
Because this is why so many people wonder why their life is so much a mess. It's because they are constantly projecting. They're just projecting all this crap, and they wonder like why their life is so bad. It's because they don't even take a look at it. They don't take time to reflect what they project, and in that regard, they don't end up seeing that their inner system of being is not in alignment with what's on the outside, or it's actually what creates the outside world around us. And I think collectively, most people are so, they cling on to this fear, they cling on to this scenario. I keep hearing people say, "Oh my God, we're gonna have a financial collapse, or we're gonna have like another recession." I'm like, well, just because it's been another 10 years since this has happened doesn't mean it's gonna happen again. You know, people are just basing it off of statistics. What I would say is this: if such an event were to happen, you really would have to back that with so much emotional charge, and this is where curses come into play. Or mind magic. Some people say, "Oh, this person cursed me and I don't feel well." Well, that can only happen if you allow it to, right? Because this is a system of allowance. Same thing with any type of event that you want to manifest. If you are an allowance of it, if people were more conscious, more awake, they wouldn't allow war to happen. They wouldn't allow a rogue system of tyranny to start taking every single right that you potentially have. Although in America, it's kind of like we're like at a stalemate. We're like, we could tip the balance. We could become very totalitarian, or we could become a lot more sovereign. It really just depends on the people and what they want. Because we have the power. We really have the power. And I want people to remember that. This is my series of empowerment.
What's your channel called again?
My show? Well, this is not my show exactly. My channel is called The Intuitive John.
The what? Sorry?
The Intuitive Life with John. This is the first video, by the way. So I gave you honors to be,
sweet. I'm helping you kick off.
Yeah.
The Intuitive Life of John.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it in my notes.
I could send you a link so that way you know.
Yeah, send me the link. I'll forget to look at my notes.
This is part of my YouTube video series on empowerment, so it'll probably be part of my empowerment series, and it's Naga Nourishment. So everything I'm discussing in a way is to help people find that reserve of power within themselves so that they can start to, well, first of all, undo whatever it is that is causing them, all this crap, but also just start changing and shifting out of the stuck patterns that keep you enslaved. Because part of it is us enslaving our own self. We also have a role in this, because what most people don't remember, and again, this is depending on if you were swiped. For me, not a single person here is going to have all their memory. Why? Because it's too much to handle. It's way too much to handle for anybody. Even those of us who come in with more of our meta abilities, it's too much to have all that at once. Because you have to, in a way, forget a part of yourself so that way you can somehow manage to understand this reality enough so that you're not, in a way, lost within the system, because it's very easy to get lost here.
Yeah.
There's no instructions, there's no manual. yes, we do have our celestial family, and they will help us, especially when we're being heavily targeted, because some of us do get heavily targeted. And it comes in many shapes, sizes, and forms. So in some cases, it can be through relationships. Sometimes it's through circumstances. It could be, and again, people, it's weird because some of us do get tracked through incarnations, but also as we come into this world and are born, you can be tracked. I know several people who have been targeted since they were born in this world. It's pretty sad. They never really get a chance to really live on the everyday because they're just trying to survive.
And is this like DNA tracking or spirit tracking? I don't know. How would you track
All,
somebody?
uh,
All
all
of the
the
above?
So spiritually, everybody comes from a specific part of the universe, or I shouldn't say universe. That's not the right word. I don't like to use that.
Cosmos?
I rather diverse because it's multiple verses.
Multiverse, yeah.
So your spirit. So some of us, like myself, I'm very. I mean, I seem kind of nice sometimes, but I should say. Let me refrain that I'm on live video. I am quite nice, but there are moments where I just snap and I'm just like, no. I'm a warrior spirit, in a way, because I don't allow people to just walk over me. Because that happened to me when I was a kid because of my family situation and, one of my parents being a little off. But I made sure that person got checked. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, when you if you've been sort of the doormat and you finally have a thing where you assert yourself, all you need is one time. It doesn't even matter if the person's a bully or a giant or anything. It could be anybody that's just annoying you, and you actually speak up. Then at that point you're like, oh, nobody can ever do anything. I can always resist. You can always say no, thank you.
But that's the thing, is part of learning about how this world works is learning where you stand in your power, right? Most of us are programmed from the very beginning that we're powerless. Mm-hmm. And so we carry on this kind of, I don't know, it's like this persona, like, I'm not worthy of having this in my life. I'm not worthy. By the way, I'm not trying to jinx myself. I'm just saying this is the program that runs in so many people's heads.
Oh, I know it is. And the self-doubt, even the biblical, the original sin thing, like the people that buy into that, they literally, they know they're worthless. They're born worthless.
They're told that they're worthless.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you tell a creator being who doesn't remember that they're a creator being that they're worthless, and they believe it, well then guess what? They manifest it, and they are fucking worthless. Like by all, not necessarily on the outer picture outside of this particular incarnation, but for them and for how they appear to everybody else and how they interact, they are acting that out in reality.
Oh yeah, and they're proud of it too.
Yeah.
They're glad. This is what I find so weird.
It becomes part of the identity.
To themselves, okay. I was raised Catholic, and I no longer follow that religion, but I don't judge people who decide to. You get to decide what you want to believe in, and I'll decide what I want to believe in. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I thought was really strange was that I always kind of felt like when I was praying, in the church, we had to get down on our knees, like on those pews.
Yeah, I was in there. I remember.
I'm like, this does not feel right to me. In my understanding, wait, why do I have to do this again? And I just had to follow through because I'd look really funny if I was the only one standing while everybody else is kneeling down. So I just, I did that. Yeah. But what was really strange to me was that some of the words that were being taught to us made me feel like, oh my God, does God not love me? Mm-hmm. I'm not worthy for God's love, because this is what we're told. And this could follow for years. I mean, I still have family members that still go to church, and a lot of them buy into that programming, that if you're not worthy, therefore you need to beg another, I shouldn't say beg, but you have to give over, I guess, your power, or it's kind of hard to use words because I'm not used to it. I'd rather just be telepathic with people. It'd be so much easier.
Yeah, no, but it's a what do you call it? It's a lowering of yourself.
It's a lowering
it's a
of yourself.
subservience thing. You're being subservient
You're
to
you're
the.
placing yourself in a position of a victim. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe it. Because in a way, what do victims not have to do? They don't have to take responsibility. They don't have to see that they actually are part of themselves being a victim. This, and that might be really shocking to hear, but in most majority of cases, I'm not denying certain cases, and there are certain things that people are legitimately victims, and it's not right.
Mhm.
But majority of the cases and excuses that people make, especially if you're like seriously hardcore about excuse making, they always play upon themselves as the victims to their circumstance when they know that they can actually change the situation. Literally, they can just move the energy, but they don't
They
want
don't
to.
know that. They think they cannot, or else
I think
they're
they know. They're just a lot of the times they just and they tell you too. They're like, I know I need to make this change, but then they never do it. They never do it, and it's like, wake up, people! You have to get out of this. Oh, it's so hard because I realize we're all on different evolutionary levels. I guess you could think of it as like a video game, right? This is where I'm like, you know what? Maybe he's because I think on another video you said that we were all like NPCs in a way, and I'm like, you know, he might be right on that because in some levels I'm not as conscious as I could be. A good example is lucid dreaming. I remember my dreams. I just can't like move things. I really want to do that, but it just I can't do it. I can't do it at the time.
yeah.
It's
You know, the trick that I tell people sometimes is that like you have to wake up to your lucid dream that you're in now, because it's not different. I guarantee you that you awake from this reality to something else, and you're like, oh, I was in that dream for 100 million years, and I did nothing the entire time because I thought it was real life. You know,
that's kind of funny.
it just depends on how you flip your perspective, because
Yeah.
if you're doing the same thing, whether it's real or a dream or whatever, you're not accomplishing anything whatsoever. There's just no point. There's no point.
So it's basically you're just running on a hamster wheel.
Yeah. And
A
it's
hundred
it's obviously
years.
going nowhere. It's the only place it's going is perhaps hurting the planet that we live on, but outside of that, obviously it's either going nowhere or regressing, because you just look around, like it's just dirty everywhere, everyone's entrained, and it's not it's if anything it's going backwards. You cannot say that it's going forwards.
Devolution.
Yeah.
But part of what's happening now, and I want to stress this so people can start to remember, is that those of us who truly do want to evolve will get that opportunity. It's not like, because really this is an individual choice. In the end, you get to choose where you want to go, how you want to evolve or not evolve. And, you know, think about the fallen angelics. They chose not to evolve and to heal. They chose to do what they're doing in this world as part of it. But it's starting to wane. Their effects are not working as well. If you notice, there's so many glitches to the systems that we thought were good for us, but are actually not. And people are starting to wake up from it. And I do see more of that happening. However, it's like a very slow transition. You know, for thousands of years, these programs have been running on like autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
So let's a good example is our monetary system, right? If we were to say, you know what, we're not going to have no cash in our system, no banks, nothing. Most people would be like, well, how are we supposed to live our lives? Because we've grown up accustomed to using cash as a means of trade.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, it was probably spices or, I mean, it was barter. It was a barter system, but like most people, they would have a hard time with that because their reality that they understand doesn't match this so-called new reality that's being put in front of them. So when you have a mismatch like that, it literally is like a collapsing. It's a true collapse, because if you collapse the fields of energy and you have all these little cords attached to it, that would be us.
Mm-hmm.
It could take us out. It could take us out. So a lot of people ask, why can't we just, collapse the monetary system that only funds certain people? We could do that, but the reason why that's not happening is because if we were to do that, then every single person, sorry, my nose is like really itchy, would probably be like, oh, well, what's the point of living life now if we don't have, we don't have money to like go and do what we want to do, because that's how we're taught in this reality. It's like you have to shift out. It's like phase shifting. You
Mm-hmm.
go from one phase into another. Just as how what you're seeing now is more manifestations happening a lot faster, if you've noticed. People all of a sudden are like manifesting things in their lives that might have taken them a little bit longer than usual.
I haven't noticed that for me personally, but actually, in my view, the whole thing, the whole realm at this point in time is more frozen than moving. But
Everything's constantly moving.
I know it's moving, but I mean, as far as moving outside of the conveyor belt type of movement,
Conveyor belt, yeah.
outside of that, I don't see a lot. But I'm not saying that's a problem. That's just feels to me that the system is a bit stagnant right now.
It's stagnant up until the point when you decide it's no longer stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, we affect reality through our own perception. There's a really good book, I think you might want to check it out. It's called The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like science. So if you're wanting science backed or evidence based information, he's got the goods. And he literally talks about how our own belief systems influence our DNA, influence our biology. So if that's the case, then why do people get sick? Why do people age? Why do people have these? It's weird, because if you think about it, if we're such a powerful creator being, you think that we would be mastering these bodies, we'd be mastering our reality, we'd be mastering how to live on this planet. But that's not at all what's happening. But the thing is, we have all the information at our fingertips. But
It could be information overload.
but that's the thing, is which information is the right information, because we live in an information age, and now there's this whole thing about fake news and, well, a lot of other things that are fake. Fake people, fake fake bodies, because all this body alterations going on. So it's really hard now for many people to demarcate between what is the authentic original versus that which is not, because you're seeing a counterfeit reality right in front of you, unless you're blind, unless like your third eye is like completely shut off.
Yeah.
And you're just like constantly engulfing yourself into a manufactured system of reality instead of actually choosing to create your own. It will be very difficult for you to understand, or I should say, to know the difference. Because what you're seeing now, and I'll give you another example, pop culture, okay? there's this challenge called it's a lip challenge, and it's to make your lips bigger.
Like duck lips?
And duck lips,
Yeah.
okay? And I'm just like, why do people do these things? Or the Tide Pod challenge is a good example too, which
heard
I
about
don't get
that.
why people thought that was a good idea. 'Cause
They were
it
eating
said,
them? Is that what it was? Like teenagers were eating Tide Pods?
well, yeah, teenagers, but then, children started eating them. Because in a way, when I first saw this product, I thought, "Oh, is this a new candy?" And then I realized it's not a candy. It's a freaking Tide detergent,
Wow.
like pod in like some really interesting material. It's like plastic, but it's not because it dissolves. And I thought, wow, I'm surprised like they haven't had any lawsuits yet because this stuff. If a little toddler, if a baby accidentally grabbed it and ate it, he could probably die. This stuff is very, very toxic for the body. So when I saw that there was a challenge on that, I thought, oh my goodness, and this is what the hive thinks is acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
The other challenge was this duck lip challenge, but it was using. Let me see if I have a container for it. Okay, I have a shot glass for you, and yes, people actually were using a shot glass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they would put their lips in there, and they would like try to expand their. They would like vacuum, like they would
Like suck in
the air, like
Yeah.
vacuum, like a feel, and then it would like cause their lips to expand, but it would have this really bad bruising effect. Something like that. Not only is it very dangerous, but you could actually damage your lip tissues. Okay, all that because they wanted to have big lips, like this one celebrity who, by the way, their lips are not real. I mean, if you look at their before and afters. But this is the thing, is people buy into the program, and that's why people end up getting hurt, because they can't distinguish between what is an organic, real spirit, so to speak, and that which is a counterfeit. Because if you think about it, most people are not in touch with their spirits, because if they were, they wouldn't go out of their way to try to change their physicality through physical means.
Right.
But you can't really do it that way. I mean, plastic surgery will, you can't use certain procedures to really change how you, accordingly to how you feel, because that's not a correct way of measuring. What does that mean? The way that you alter physicality, you have to do it through genetics. And this is why the Anunnaki were so good at what they did, because they are master geneticists. Same thing as the reptilians. Different star species have different abilities, and the reptilians were known geneticists. And so that's why we speak in a language, right? Before that, in Atlantis and Lemuria. And it's interesting, I get that you've probably had a few past lives here as well. It's interesting, the first thing I thought about you was a Viking.
Yeah?
I got a Viking vibe from you. I don't know, are you Dutch?
I'm Dutch. I'm German, Dutch, Irish.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes it's really weird when I get like a glimpse of somebody, or if I hear their voice, I almost always get an impression of them. And like the first thing that came to mind, it's like, he was totally Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones.
It could be. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Most of the things people do seem silly, which would make sense if you're coming from a seafaring warrior type family. But I don't have memories. I don't have any memories of
It doesn't
past
mean
lives.
you can't get them back, though. I just want to stress that too, is that some people, yes, they may not have all their memories intact. And again, it also depends on what your mission is, because some people don't need to remember too much.
That's, I
Because
think, more what it is with me. It's
because if you remember too much, then you sometimes can get stuck in your past, and then you're not able to live in the now, because that's all we have.
Mm-hmm.
some people, it's kind of like a process of unfoldment. So for maybe someone like you would be unfolding those memories over time, as well as your psychic abilities. I mean, I can tell that for you, you could be a very, very powerful communicator because you're very good at relaying information. I also do astrology charts, so if you want an astrology reading, let me know. Okay. What? By the way, what is your zodiac sign? Just out of curiosity.
I'm July 3rd. It was supposed to be Cancer, and then Lavette did it, and she said I was actually Gemini, so I'm not sure which one it actually is.
Okay, so on the Vedic system, I think you're a Gemini. And the Vedic system, I would go with usually, but I would have to check your moon sign because that's your sun sign. But in the Western system, you'd be a Cancer. So I'm not surprised that you're able to you have a strong understanding of how the mind works. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't be surprised by that. And I think you would also be really good with learning telepathy as well, which takes time to develop. And I want to talk about that because there's a difference between telepathy that's natural versus synthetic. And this is really what you have to be aware of, because I predict down the line that these tech companies are going to want to simulate this technology, but we already have it naturally. Because like I said earlier, technology is a limited artifice. It's only as good as what we decide to use it for. So a good example is my old iPhone. It only gets to have 3 product cycle uses, meaning it can only be used for as long as there's 3 new products that come out. So like my iPhone 4, I used to have a 4, I don't have anymore.
So like if the 10's out, then the 7 basically would be the last tier that's getting phased out or something like that?
Yeah. Or a more current example would be the iPhone 6S, right? iPhone 6S came out in 2015, fall of 2015. And then fall of 2018, Apple decided, oh, we're kicking it off our product line. Now we're going to just put the 7 in its place. Mm-hmm. So it's like that.
In the sense that
technology is only as good as we are because it's an extension of who we are. When it comes to certain technologies such as machine learning and telepathy, or I should say synthetic telepathy, because there's a difference. Synthetic telepathy is very mechanized. It's like, it is a hive mind. It is a form of AI. Mm-hmm. But it's not something that I would want playing in my mind every single day at every single time, second, hour, minute.
No. That's not.
So
not something I'd
real
be interested
in. It's very like, I don't know. It's like a softness there, and this is how you know you're hearing your spirit too. Is that it doesn't force its way in.
Right.
It's not that voice that tells you you really suck at what you're doing. It's like, you know, when you're like walking and all of a sudden, like, you get a feeling or you get a picture or you get a thought and you're like, I don't know where this came from, but I really feel good about whatever this is. You have that light feeling, like ooh, like, what is this? It's kind of like a surprise. Mm-hmm. That's your spirit talking. Most definitely, that is something that you should pay attention to. And for me, a lot of the times when I'm walking, I'm getting like ideas that pop up for either it's for a business or it might be something I need to give to somebody, and I just do it. I just do it. I either write it down so I don't forget, because it's easy to forget these things, and then just do it. Another way of understanding the mind is just seeing where the thoughts take you, because attention goes where energy flows, right? Or is it attention?
Energy flows where attention goes. I think that's it.
It works either way. It works either way.
Right, but
This
yeah, it's like what you're looking at is what's going to be enhanced by your own
enhance
energy flow.
your yeah, okay. So another uh, way of understanding this is like authentication, right? In order to get into your car from like a modern car, you have to push a button on the key fob to unlock the car.
Mm-hmm.
In many ways, when it comes to your spiritual abilities, so in a way, I'm kind of teaching me a little bit about this. You have to have an authentication so that you can access that. So for most people, it could be very helpful for them if they go on a nature walk,
Mm-hmm.
or they do yoga, or maybe they do meditations. Although I feel meditation has just kind of been used way too much it's been oversimplified, and it really doesn't have to be. It's really just a state where you're in that like 0 point, and that no matter what's going on around you, you're still able to get information that you need from
Mm-hmm.
your, and it's not, you don't have to sit cross-legged in yoga all the time. You don't have to do that. I know a lot of people do, but you don't have to do it that way, because really how we were designed was that, and this goes back to the great experiment, right? Because this is an experiment. We're experimenting with reality as we speak right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to us being able to bring our spirit more into these bodies, because this is a technology itself. Our body is a technology. And if we can understand that, then we can really start to change that, what people think is a crystallized or just unchangeable. You see people who are able to move things with their mind, people who are able to move energy just through their hands, Qigong practitioners. When people come around me sometimes, they get an instant healing. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I don't have to put my hands on people. Do hands healing, it can take a while, and it can get... And this is the other thing. If you're going to do healing work on people, it should never feel exhausting.
Right.
If that's the case, immediately detach and clear out your energetic field before you go back and do it. Because I've caught some people doing energy healing, and they ask me, why am I feeling so sick? It's because you're using your own energy. So
That's one of the first things that we learn in Reiki, is that you're channeling the energy through your vessel as a conduit, but you're not actually drawing from your own energy.
yes, absolutely. And this is, if you're highly empathic, this is a skill set you must learn, because most empaths, they give their energy away, and trust me, I've been there. Wonder like, oh my gosh, I feel so sick. I feel like I can't even cry. I feel like one of those people who literally has no emotions when you tell them something that's really, really like deep and like serious, like someone in your family dying.
And they just have blank face.
They have a blank face. That's happened to me, and I'm like, oh my god, my empath ability is like walked out of the building. That's happened to me, and I thought to myself, like, this isn't normal, is this? It is absolutely normal if you didn't put up a barrier or a boundaries, and some people don't agree with me on that, but I absolutely believe you need to have boundaries. We live in a society that praises people for not being emotionally, how can I put this? Because the human species is an emotional species.
Mm-hmm.
We're not logical. If we were logical, we wouldn't do the stupid shit that we do.
Well, we have the capacity for logic, but the system itself and what it does is not logical, really.
Exactly.
So you have to essentially either like shelf your logic, or just realize the emotions really do have the power here, but we're pretending we live in a logical society. The society pretends it's logical.
And the brain has been specifically wired for us to process emotionally first, then logical.
Mm-hmm.
Because our neocortex is like the last part of our brain that develops. So it doesn't surprise me that most people are kind of, they live their life off of their carnal desires. So it's like, what are the three things that tempt man? Money, sex, and power. What are the three things that control this world? Money, sex, and power.
Mm-hmm.
What are the three things that most people strive for? Lots of money, lots of sex, lots of power. So you can see how it just interweaves into everything here, right?
And that's the opposite side. I mean, that's the materialism power.
That's the material.
That's like the devil. That's what the devil would sell you. He'd say, yeah, I'm going to give you all the power that you could want, all the girls you could want, and you can tell anybody to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the complete opposite of what genuine spirit beings are, because the whole thing of force is, at least to me as a being, force is ugly. Like, I used to say force is the lowest form of coercion, and like love is the highest form of coercion, because love, you're still persuading someone, energetically at least, to do something with or for or around you, but they have the option to say no, and if they say no, also a way of not forcing is you literally energetically being okay with them saying no, not even just saying, okay, well, you said no, so I don't, but then still inside it's the internal energetic state that really, really gets to people, that people think like the words have something to do with it. It really doesn't. It's
the energy. It's the vibration, because it's about frequency. So let's say that there's a decision that you have that is being made in the room. Some people are going to say, oh yeah, absolutely, I'll go forward with it. A good idea if you think about like a conference room for businesses, right? And they have to make like a major decision, and it's these VPs, and it's going to affect the whole company. And the decision is, we're going to have to lay off about 150 workers.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's not going to be them, right? It's going to be like, base people, the ones who actually make us our money. We see this all the time. I think GM just last year, towards Christmas, they laid off a whole bunch of workers. Bastards. So,
well, they're all mechanizing. They're all trying to automate everything, and eventually you cut off more and more people, because the corporation itself doesn't give a shit what exact humans are comprising the workforce. The corporation just needs someone in there.
Its motive is profit, profit, profit. If you think about, I don't know if you've studied astrology in such depth, but there is a archetype called Rahu. In Western astrology, we call it North Node.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the head of the monster. It's a constant consumer. This is what makes America so great. Make America great again. Make America consume again,
mm-hmm.
right? It's if you go and compare ourselves to, say, like India, or even, not even India, Bali. Bali is perfect.
Indonesia,
right. Yeah. Or where my mom's from. She's from the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
So over there, everybody wants to be like America, because we're like the newest version of Rome. We really are. And there's a lot to go into that. But we praise ourselves based off of our material desires. You're considered a success if you have that really nice car, or two really nice cars, that white picket fence, that home, that perfect family, the kids, the two dogs, multiple real estate. What else? Your own private jet. But you don't need to have your own private jet, right?
Even a Tesla. You're pretty prestigious if you have a Tesla.
Oh, no. Well, probably in NorCal, because Southern California, we see them, but it's not like where you see it in NorCal, I believe, because most people are like, when I found out that those Tesla cars, like when they start doing autopilot, I'm like, no, thank you.
You don't want to just all of a sudden
the
be like, beep, beep, beep,
that.
I'm taking you to, someone else just starts programming it and you're just along for the ride.
I mean, I can't do that with a car. Like, who doesn't enjoy driving? Like, being behind the wheel and just like, I don't know, like when we're little kids, we always like imagine like, oh, I can't wait to get my license and the freedom. And now people don't even want that. They'd rather just sit there and let the wheel do its thing. I'm like, We really have issues, man.
We're just we're just heading toward the actual Matrix things where people are gonna literally sign up to be hooked up to the thing and pumped in artificial,
it's
completely
like
artificial.
it's gonna be like Wally. You know that
Yeah,
movie
yeah, yeah,
Wally?
yeah, like Wally.
Oh my goodness.
And you can see people already want it. Like
Yeah.
the kids want the iPhone 24/7. It's not like they're sitting there, oh, maybe I would prefer to sit next to a tree. No, they want the iPhone. People are
Yeah.
choosing this
But
reality.
that's because with every generation, there has been specific markers that put in place this program. So you were born in the 80s, I'm assuming?
85.
85. Oh, so you're 10 years older. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say you guys probably were like maybe one of the last generations that didn't have so much of this technological interface to the point where literally you got cut off from nature.
Yeah, we had the landlines, rotary telephones, and
Oh,
dial-up internet. We had like typewriters and whatnot, cassette players. That's literally when I was a kid. That's what was going on. Record players.
yeah.
The thing didn't start like this whole digital revolution didn't really start, in my opinion, for the masses until like 2000, 2001 when the iPod first came out, and that's what was later to become the iPhone in like 2004, and then from then on touch screen and social media took over, and that's where we're at now in 2019,
Right.
where it
And
literally is like it's like a hive. That Facebook is a hive. It's if you're a piece on there,
Instagram.
you're one of those little hexagonal honeycomb things inside of the hive mind.
Exactly, and it's kind of interesting that you mentioned cassette players and whatnot because all of that seems to like stream right back into our society again because it's like I
It's
know well I
antique
live
now, invaluable.
if you go to like in San Diego, I don't know if you've ever been to this neighborhood. We have a neighborhood called North Park,
Mm-hmm.
and I swear to God, it's like the biggest hipsterville you could ever go to. Everybody has like these cassette tapes and they're so cool. I'm like, honey, we had those back in like the 80s and 90s still.
They're actually listening to cassette tapes?
I mean, I have like a few. I mean, not anymore because I think about it, I need my storage space and those take a lot of space. That and VHS.
Well, I mean,
One thing
are people listening to cassette tapes because it's vintage or because they actually somehow like how it works?
vintage, more so for the vintage quality. I mean, record players, especially, are more on the vintage scale.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind like MP3 digital formats of music, but I want to own the music. I don't want to pay a subscription because next thing you know, my favorite artist is not on there, or the music I listen to is not on there because it's not mainstream. And of course, why would they put something that's not mainstream? But over time, you see like the generation after mine, or I guess you could say I'm part of this one, but like at the very beginning, most of them have no idea what it was like before smartphones came out. I'm talking about like the kids born in the late 90s, early 2000s, going into the 2000s
Right.
plus. They don't know what it's like without a smartphone. They don't know what it was like to live without having internet. I didn't really get internet until I was like in high school. And I didn't really need to. Like I could still write everything by hand. I could still do everything manually and I'd still get credit for it. Now it's like you must have a computer.
Well, they have iPads in classrooms now, if I remember.
I didn't get to have that. I had to take a freaking heavy textbook with me everywhere I went. And there was like 5 of them. Oh, I hated that. But I'm like, I don't understand why, because to be real honest, I mean, yes, I can understand the paper trail and then the money, but at the same time, it's grooming people, or I should say it's grooming children and even teenagers to be so reliant on this that they don't have their own internal compass. They can't, if I tell somebody at that age group, about, well, do you know how to go here without your cell phone? Like, give me your phone, drive to this area, and see if you can find the place. Most of them probably couldn't do it. They would need Google Maps or Waze.
Mm-hmm.
Waze probably, because Waze tells you everything, plus the traffic, plus the cops.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, because I always have Uber drivers that tell me, like, this app is amazing. I'm like, I've heard so much about it.
Waze is essential if you're a rideshare driver.
Yeah, and it's also for use for right journal, I guess. You're seeing that they don't they don't know what it's like, and so therefore they're more susceptible to this. I like to say it's a coitus, like it's like an entanglement of their mind, right? Where,
Sexual.
and when I say coitus, I don't mean like sex, but more like it's a fusing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a fusing of something that is not part of our original blueprint with us. So this whole agenda about transhumanism and potentially you fusing with technology as an upgrade. So let's say you need a body part because you got your leg blown off or something. Well, we would just fuse you to a metallic, maybe a titanium. I'm not sure what build quality it would be. And you could have your leg. I mean, we have that with prosthetics, but originally we would regrow our limbs naturally. That's part of our original blueprint.
Well, we're
Another
not
is
original though. I mean, you said yourself we're technology. The body is a high technology anyway.
it is a high technology, but that's the thing. Everything really is. If you look at how everything works, it was made through technology, and our spirit is the ultimate form of it. But with technology, you can see that there's a counterfeiting to it. Just
Mm-hmm.
as when Apple comes out with something, you see a whole bunch of companies start like copying them, like
Yeah.
the whole AirPod thing.
All the China companies copy it.
Everyone copies it, like the whole notch. There you go.
Yeah.
When they came out with that whole notch iPhone X, or I say X, but it's 10, and they skipped the 9, right? They skipped the 9, and I believe there's a reason they skipped the 9 because the 9 symbolizes a completion, and when you have a 10, that is the beginning of something new. So that's just a little subliminal thought.
Why do you think they wouldn't want to have the completion? Because that would mean they'd have to be done as a company.
Not done as a company, but it's to usher in a new era. If you look at the new hardware, right? You go from the 8 to the 10. Well, that's a significant difference. There's no home screen button. The screen size is different. There's a notch.
What is
You
the
have that
notch?
dual camera, but it's like vertical.
What's the notch you're talking about?
But you know how at the very top of the phone, like I have, this is my phone right here. Oops. This is the SE.
Mm-hmm.
So the notch makes the screen a lot bigger, and then you have your camera. It's like this little part right here, and then this is actually screen space on these sides. I don't know if you can see
Why is
it.
it called notch? Like, what does that mean?
It's just like that. It's just the space, that little space where you have like the speaker, and then you have like the Face ID.
So that part is the notch that's outside of the
That's
screen.
yeah.
Okay.
They call it's part of the design.
I see.
I don't know why it's called that, but it's just weird.
Well, a notch is like a crevice or something. I guess they're saying that the proximity sensor and the earphone and the front facing camera are in the notch, right?
they're in the notch,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But with this, they have brought in a certain type of technology that literally scans your whole face, right? Face
Mhm.
ID. What was I saying earlier about how it's pretty much similar to how Facebook uses your facial recognition patterns, right? To be able to do geotagging. Okay, so I'm a little bit of a tech nerd. Excuse me for this, but geotagging, facial recognition, but then also uploading that information to a private data server.
To where it could probably find anybody just walking on the street, right? I mean, I have a feeling like we're already there anyway. I really feel like.
I mean, think about when you get your driver's license, right? You you have to like somehow smile, but the DMV person doesn't give a
You don't
damn.
have to smile.
So in my driver's license picture, it just looks like I'm kind of like I'm a little happy, but I'm kind of not. And then you have to put your thumbprint in, right? So they already have it.
Yeah.
It's just much better would it be if people just gave it away for free? And we don't have to charge you, because at the DMV you have to pay to get a driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay to get your ID. But Facebook is free, right?
Everything should be free, but the thing is we're still operating under the capitalistic thing, but that's like I don't even know how to say it, but it's like a juvenile thing to want to be able to say I have more things than this person, so therefore I'm better than them. Like, that's like, as far as evolutionarily, spiritually speaking, that's like a little kid thing to want, I think.
Yeah, in a way we could say that the human race on this planet, because there's multiple human races aside from us, we're like little children. Like, you could be like 30, but you could still act like a kid. I mean, I've met people
exactly.
like
that. And that power thing that you get, that ego thing with wealth, that is like, they act like children with that, because you're literally taking what would be power, which is like wisdom and the ability to communicate and persuade people that your position is correct, right? You're completely removing those natural elements that would allow you to actually sway things, and you're literally like, it's a force thing again. Like, here's money. My idea is probably full of shit and it's not going to work, or maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I'm putting money here, therefore the idea is going to be put into place regardless. And it's just bad. It's not healthy whatsoever.
Or it's like, if you think about it, if you come from money, and we know, we've all known this, you can buy your way into anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy whoever you want to marry you. You could buy your you can buy your degrees, and now I guess that includes like the nicest colleges, right? Like the Harvards.
That wasn't supposed to be found out about. That was supposed to be hush hush.
But that, I mean, if you think about it, that's been going on since the beginning, because only rich people go to those schools. Majority go to.
The veil is slipping. The veil that says, oh, everybody has the land of the free or whatever, equal opportunity. That the veil is slipping that convinced all the poor people that was actually true. Like, that's what's slipping. It's not that anything has changed in reality.
No. It's just that what we have been brainwashed to believe was true. Because when I was in high school, which wasn't that long ago, I graduated 2013. We were told, go to college. That's going to be the ticket to, a six-figure salary and job security and all this. I can tell you from then and then now, majority of people of my graduating class probably didn't even go to college, or maybe had started and then just decided, F this, my teacher doesn't even give a damn. In fact, they're more concerned about me agreeing to their ideology instead of challenging me to think critically for myself, right? And that's basically, in a way, that's kind of how our system is based off of a brainwashed model. You can't think for yourself, so we'll do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they tell us, which is a lie. You can think for yourself. They don't want you to think for yourself.
The thing is we've gone so far past having a collective of individuals that does come up with their own stuff, that the originality, that now, there's no audience anymore. If you have somebody who's speaking their mind, the drones and stuff, they won't even hear it. Like, you can hear the words and it will not penetrate into the mind.
Of course not, because this is true of geniuses, right? When Tesla came out with this technology, he was told that he was whack, that he had serious issues. Because when you're a genius, no one pays attention to you until you're dead.
Yeah, posthumously famous, right? But that's also helping. That's helping the thieves to basically not have to come up with ideas on their own, because they wait till the guy's dead, or they probably arrange a suicide or whatever, and then they have the ideas. Just like, Elon Musk didn't come up with that technology that Tesla cars are running, right? He didn't come up with that. Maybe Tesla did, maybe he didn't. I don't know, but
I'm not going to deny someone like him is very intelligent and is very gifted with being a visionary. But that technology, I'll tell you, majority of Tesla's technology was not used correctly. In fact, Tesla, his past life was in Atlantis, and many people don't know that because, well, I remember. It's like, oh, jokes on those people, right? No, but he had to come back because of certain things that he didn't correct.
Mm-hmm.
He had to correct certain things that he made a mistake in Atlantis with. And part of it was this free energy system, which we've still, it's here. What I want to say about quantum manifestation is every single thing is parallel reality or parallel verse. We have to bring it into this physical density. So manifestation does take longer, but there's no such thing as it not actually happening. Everything is happening. It's just a matter of what brings it in here. I just want to get that out.
It's a selective. Like we're making selections as we're condensed down into the body form. Even that's a selection from the highest possibility of creation, right?
A dragon. We could be a fairy. Be a freaking green alien. I would so love to have green skin, but they matter because with your spirit you could change. You could shapeshift into any form. This is not involuntary. This is like involuntary. We didn't get to choose. We're kind of like, oh yeah, you have to be in this body, and you have to be this gender and this race and look like
what
this.
What do you think about that as far as recycling, reincarnation, or tricking and all that thing? You think that's a thing?
So when it comes to reincarnation, it's mostly based off of what you decide. Do you feel like you got what you wanted out of your lifetime? And if not, then you can choose to reincarnate. Now, I'm not saying that people haven't been forced to, because they have. If I study somebody's energy for a while, I can tell you, some people have come here, but they go to the recycling machine. It's weird that we call it that. Those of us in the spirit community call it that. The true spirit community, because there's big people in that community as well. The moon, with its prisms, right? By the way, all that is gone now. You don't have to reincarnate anymore. In fact,
I heard that said, but I never looked into it to see.
Most
if it's
people don't have to reincarnate anymore. If they decide to, it's because either they want to be they will probably experience the new earth via a birth incarnation, because originally we didn't have to have sex to have offspring. That, because what I know is that we didn't have to do that. We didn't have to have sex. Although it's part of this vice of the carnal life is sexual lust and desire. We didn't have it in Atlantis and Lemuria. We would bind our energy, right? So like, and of course it has to be feminine and masculine energy that bonds. But because we were in spirit form, we were more androgynous, and we weren't disconnected from ourselves. Because if you think about it, we're split from our original self in a way, because you look at men and women and you see the common arguments. Oh, so he's not this for me, or she's not that for me, or he makes more money than me, and all this argumentation. But nobody wants to look at themselves and say, no, I did that. I did that.
Yeah, okay. Responsibility is not a popular personality character here.
But do you see how it is a mirror system here? Men and women are direct mirrors of each other. And within each other, everyone has a feminine and masculine within themselves. And that plays out accordingly. In twin flame dynamics, which majority of people I'm going to say this, are not at that frequency band to handle that. Majority of people cannot handle a twin flame union. It is so hard when you go into such a relationship, because you're exposed to your deepest core. There is no such thing as hiding in your shadow. You can't hide in your darkness. You can't hide from yourself.
Yeah.
It's exposed to the point where you're just naked. You're completely naked, and everybody sees you. It's like the Emperor's New Clothes.
Do you feel like twin flames is a thing that everybody has, or is this just a concept that has been abused and manipulated? Because that's what it seems like to me. A lot of abuse.
If you've been studying if you study the works of Evie Lorgan, Lauda as well, and she speaks about the new predator, and myself, I can say that I have seen this energy. Okay, this predator type of energy, but I don't call it that. That's her terminology. It is something that many of us spirits coming here, we had to be very careful because we knew that this thing existed, and it wants a hosting form, and it wants to take a body. The reason why there's so much, I'm going to segue to what you're saying. The reason why Earth is so wanted by the dark forces, so to speak, or is praised, is because she's the hearth. She holds everything up in this universe. She's also a gateway to higher dimensional fields of consciousness. So if something were to happen to Mother, and this is what we were told, we would potentially see everything in consciousness, space dust. Everything will collapse. The whole structure would collapse, and we would have to start over again. There's no such thing as you like permanently being extinct. Even the dark forces have a chance to redeem themselves. Many of them won't, and that's okay. I don't judge them because you have free will. Everyone has free will. But when it comes to twin flames, that is usually something you've chosen before you come into this body. And many of the missions here are a twin flame mission here is about transmutation. So many twin flames work better when they are together than when they're separate. And when they work together, they could profoundly change their environments. And that's why there's so much targeting in relationships, because the alchemy, the sacred alchemy, the unification of both the divine and feminine and masculine. And in many, it doesn't always come out in the form of a man and a woman. Sometimes it can be two women, it can be two men. It really just depends on the energetic signature behind that spirit. And I'd have to study that person to know. In that case, it is so powerful, the energy that comes out of that. Lower density forces, so people call them archons, some call them demons, some call them the jinn, some call them parasites, energetic vampires. Why they might like that energy is because it's life force, pure light. And when you're cut off from the light, this is why people get trapped in lower density fields, is when you're cut off from source, you can't replenish. You're like a virus. You need to attach to something to sustain yourself. This is why parasiting is so big here. This is why narcissism is so big here. Why do you think it's considered they're trying to normalize certain things like pedophilia here in this world, which I think is just absolutely insane. The reason why this agenda is being brought out to people is because it's a literal takeover of one's spirit. It's not the soul, it's your spirit that they want. Because it is a war zone here. I mean, it looks on this end of the world, it looks all peaceful in some way. You know, we're not having to like kill each other for like milk or eggs or butter. Stuff that in other countries that's happening. There are certain areas that are high target zones because of what they carry in terms of resources. Because Earth is a resource, we ourselves are a resource, and because of that, some people are basically terrorized out of their own home. all for, I want this gold. I want this resource. I want this oil.
Yeah, I mean that's all like foreclosures are, right? Is whoever is operating the bank is like
eminent domain.
I'm gonna basically make money off of your, and I don't even think they're necessarily saying off of the emotional pain from being displaced, but just the fact that they're gonna make money off of like selling the house when it's foreclosed.
Yeah. If you think about just how commercial real estate works, right? If you live in the inner city and you have like a little townhome and it's like and it's like you see this blank lot right behind your home, let's say some multimillionaire real estate developer is like, hey, I see some land, I see an area where I could potentially make some extra money. I mean, not that he needs any extra money, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just gonna see if the city can do me a favor and give me the land. And unfortunately, it's a sad thing to see gentrification in many neighborhoods. I live in San Diego, and I can tell you firsthand experience. I've never been gentrified personally, but I've seen what it does to a lot of people. And when I say firsthand, I mean I've actually seen what happens to these areas. We have a neighborhood, I should say several neighborhoods. A good example is Bankers Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right next to downtown. It's like up, and it's literally on a hill. Because if you think about California, it's hills.
It's called Banker Hill?
Bankers Hill.
Okay.
And it used to be Tweaker Central. Like literally just like, yo dude, and like, they put syringes in themselves. And it's kind of weird. It's like the inverse of what's happening with like parts of San Francisco, apparently. Where it's like there's like all these syringes on the sidewalk. Like you just walk by and you see syringes. I'm like, not for me. Luckily, I've been lucky not to have to see all that. And surprisingly, downtown San Diego has cleaned up quite a bit compared to how it was in the past. But Bankers Hill was not millions of dollars in real estate back in the 80s and 90s, and even into the early 2000s. Once construction, or I should say city development or redevelopment of that area started to occur, those homes literally went from like being maybe like $200,000 homes to being like $4 or $5 million real estate.
And it was because of what again? Commercial development of the land?
Commercial development of the land, but also it literally, if you grew up in like say the middle class, a $200,000 home, that's pretty reasonable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're on a part of land, because this is the thing, you can own the home, but if you don't own the land, this is where you have conflict, right? Because then technically you don't really own the home, right?
There's like saying like, yeah, you own this home, but you don't own any of the air that's above the ground, so you can't. You gotta wear a mask. It's pretty silly.
It's really silly, but if you think about it, what do you think happened to all those people when those fires hit last year? Right? All these people lost their homes, and all these insurance companies said, well, we're not going to reimburse you. We're not going to give you back. We're not going to give you the money necessary to go and rebuild your home. In Northern California, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what area that is.
Santa Rosa?
It's like, there's this lady, you should check her out. Her name's Deborah Tavares, and she talks about all this.
Did insurance companies not pay out any of the fire victims? Or a lot of them?
They're not giving them the full payout, so to speak.
What's the reasoning?
So they're going to give them all this money to go and rebuild. And unfortunately, the structures are so damaged. It's like, well, what's the point in trying to rebuild my home? This whole area is completely unlivable, basically. The whole land is no longer livable because it's so toxic because of all this damage. But what's weird is all these homes burnt down so in such a weird fashion, but like the surrounding landscape was somehow preserved.
Yeah. Natural wildfires, right?
Right. And so it really begs the question here, what's really going on? Most people don't know until they start to get affected. And you'll start to see that not in San Diego, but like parts of LA. I think this was in LA too. You just see people just lining up, living on the streets. They're like, you know what, screw it. You know, it's gotten to a point where in parts of California, it's just not a livable situation. I mean, rent being like $3.
It is ramping up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting to see how people deal with the. Because it's going to want to disassociate them. That's what they're going to want to do when they're see something. Leave
and move out. But I was telling people, if you do that, then guess what's going to happen? You bring all of it with you. Because you're energetically attached to this situation. And this is what shocks people. They think that when they leave a house that all of a sudden they're no longer, attached to it. Mm-hmm. If you break up with somebody, oh yeah, I'm no longer with them. But you obsess over them when you talk to me on the phone. You always bring them up in a conversation. Most people understand the physical detachment, but they don't understand there's spiritual attachments. So if you haven't cleared out that, you could actually take that into your next lifetime if you haven't transmuted that, or your next relationship. So part of relationship dynamics is that if you're somebody who breaks up with someone because that person reflects an aspect of yourself that you probably didn't even know. Maybe you're too controlling in your relationship, then maybe in your next relationship you might bring somebody who's actually going to be the one that controls you. And then you start to see, oh, there's a pattern here. This is part of mirroring, and this is the law of mirroring in this reality, but this is true for every part of the universe. What you do put out does come back to you. Here it's a little bit inverted, because what you do put out doesn't always come back to you. But now it's like your karma is coming back to you. You try to hit me with a witchcraft spell, and I have to just let you know, most bitches are just bitches. Okay, plain and simple. Any witch that's saying, well, I'm going to hex this person because they wronged me, honey, pick another checkout lane. Seriously, don't waste your time binding your energy to people. You're a really dumb witch for doing that, and you obviously have Atlantis. What happened? Okay.
Yeah. Hey, John, I gotta get going. I gotta go earn some dollars and stuff, but
cool.
We're kind of running a bit long here, but
oh my goodness.
No, it was a very interesting conversation. We didn't talk too much about the mental body, did we? Although that's a lot.
Well, we got about how this reality works, and I think that's a really good starting point.
Yeah.
But of course, we can always have conversations in the future. I mean, I think this is a pretty good one, and got a lot of ideas out there. Hopefully, it might impact people in a positive way.
Yeah, sure. Is your channel up and running already, or is it going to be?
It's already up. I just haven't posted anything yet. This is probably going to be like the first video I post. So, yeah.
send me the link to your channel, and I'll put it in the whatever the thing's called, description.
Description
for people to check out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you could send me the video, like, I don't know if you have my email. I can just give it to you, or I can send it to you via Messenger, and then just send me the link to my email, so that way I can download it, and then I'll
have to see if I can do that. You mean like send you the actual full video, like the MP3 format?
Yeah. But I don't think you can send that on Messenger because it will take up too much space. But I'll send you my email on Messenger, and then email me the video. Cause
There is a method to just copy it from YouTube if that doesn't work, because I've had trouble in the past sending large files.
Or actually, no. Here's what you do. Copy the URL link and then send that to my email, and then I can access it that way.
Yeah, you can just copy it from the original, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's weird. I try to understand how it works on like different devices, and for some reason it doesn't work, and then it works. Yeah.
You never know with technology.
Technology is.
Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on, John. It was a fun conversation.
Absolutely, and I hope that we can continue this conversation, and maybe we'll go more into the mind next time.
Yeah, we can do it again for sure.
So yeah, awesome then. Well, this concludes part 1 of a continuing video series.
All right, sounds good.
Cool.
Thanks, John. Have a good one.
You too.
Okay.